Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. It's time to talk about Heart Eyes, the new slasher movie set on Valentine's Day. It is directed by Josh Rubin and stars Mason Gooding and Olivia Holt. Before we get into spoiler territory, let me give you a quick review so you can decide if this film is worth your time. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It is free, and if you love horror movies, this is the place to be. Heart Eyes is a fun slasher movie that combines the exaggerated nature of romantic comedies with the equally over-the-top elements of a slasher movie. During this movie, we get cliches from both genres, from the almost perfect romantic moments in a rom-com to the stupid decisions that are made by victims in a slasher film. This film definitely leans into its romantic comedy elements, so if you're not a fan of sappy, cheesy moments in movies, then this might not be your thing. There is quite a bit of tonal whiplash in this movie as characters go from colorful dinner dates to misty, eerie parkland scenes in like a couple of minutes of each other. We go from that romantic comedy element to the slasher gory moments pretty quickly. But don't get me wrong, I still recommend that you check out Heart Eyes if you are a horror fan. There's a decent amount of romantic comedy elements in this movie, so be warned, it is not just strictly a slasher movie. You are going to get a heavy dose of romantic comedy with a side and a twist of gore and slasher elements. Like, there's some really good kills in this movie, but just to get your expectations right, if you're going into this film, from the scale of Scream to Terrifier, I would put Heart Eyes somewhere in the middle. It's closer to Eli Roth's Thanksgiving that released last year. So if you've seen that movie, you kind of know what you're getting into. I think the key takeaway is to go into this movie expecting a romantic comedy, but also ready for some of those horror twists, some of those slasher moments, those gory kills, because this movie definitely has some memorable killing, but also some really funny romantic comedy moments. Well, that's about it for the spoiler-free section of this video. I still recommend you go and check out Heart Eyes in the cinema. It's a good time if you're a horror fan, and it's just soft enough and filled with enough romantic comedy elements that you can still take some of your friends who aren't really horror fans. I would say this is a good way to introduce somebody into the horror genre without throwing them too far into the deep end. This is not a Texas Chainsaw Massacre or a Terrifier, but it is definitely still a fun time at the movies. Now, we are moving into the spoiler section. You've been warned. I'm going to count down now. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We are officially in the spoiler section. Let's talk Heart Eyes. So right off the bat, Heart Eyes starts with a pretty unbelievable and ridiculous narrative premise. One that you will need to swallow as an audience member in order to have a good time with this movie. So the idea is that there is a serial killer who strikes every year on Valentine's Day, and is talked about on the news and the television as some sort of celebrity or supervillain, a myth, a legend. So the movie starts with a very unlikable couple who are essentially staging their proposal out in a vineyard, and of course they are hunted down and murdered by the Heart Eyes killer. He uses a machete and a crossbow, and he even forces this young girl into a machine that crushes grapes, and we actually see her get crushed. So the opening of this movie is pretty graphic and sets the tone for how most of the movie will go. We then meet one of our main characters, Allie, played by Olivia Holt, a single, down-on-her-luck woman who works in an advertising agency. She then meets Jay, played by Mason Gooding, and the two of them get into a will they, won't they romance, which goes throughout the entire movie as they become the newest targets for the Heart Eyes killer. There is a little bit of mystery as Jay is suspected of being the Heart Eyes killer, and the audience is sowed with some doubt doubts as to what his true intentions are, but that quickly goes away. There is a whole bunch of supporting characters, including Ali's boss, her best friend, and 2 detectives who are hunting the Heart Eyes killer. The film builds chemistry between Ali and Jay in classic romantic comedy fashion, as the two are forced to work together and learn more about each other while surviving the cat and mouse chase with this killer. And of course, there are multiple bystanders who get murdered throughout the movie, but none of them really get too creative. There is a policewoman who gets impaled by the American flag. There's 2 horny hippies who get murdered while they're having sex in the back of their car, but nothing really gets too crazy going forward. There is a fake happy ending that leads to the revelation that there was multiple Heart Eyes killers the entire time. And it is revealed to be the female detective, but also a random IT worker who showed up very briefly previously in the movie. The final confrontation is probably the most satisfying part of the movie, as the killers get their comeuppance and are murdered by our main characters in a bit of a fight to the death situation. This kind of felt like the ending of a Scream movie, where the previously competent masked killer is now proved to be incompetent and easily killable and defeatable. Like, they really don't put up much of a fight at the end of this movie. There's a bit of a tussle, but they make some pretty clean work of the killers at the end of this film. The IT guy gets shot through the face by his own crossbow arrow and then doused in hot candle wax. And then the female detective 100% gets the most exaggerated and disgusting and painful death throughout the entire film, as she is basically impaled and decapitated in a really slow way. It's enough to make you squirm in your seat. Well, there we have it. That was my review of Heart Eyes. It is a hybrid romantic comedy slasher movie, and if you like either of those genres, then you're probably gonna have a good time with it. You just need to embrace the cliches and the stereotypes that come with those movies, and just be prepared to poke some fun at those genres as well. And that is my review. Please let me know down in the comments below. Have you seen the movie? Are you going to see the movie? Let me know. And remember to stay creative, keep watching horror movies, and I'll see you in the next video.